Hello, everyone. How you all doing? It's been a while. It's definitely been a while. So, I am the Common Sense Guy. How are you all doing? Hopefully, everything should be coming through all right. I understand that I've already made a grave error in the fact that apparently my lovely, lovely video didn't want to come through to be able to sort everything out. So, that's always a good thing. Always a good thing. Always. But hopefully we'll be able to sort a couple of different things out, and maybe we'll be okay, maybe we won't. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes on that one. We'll see how it goes. So I'm doing a little bit of a stream because well, it's 2 days after my birthday, and I kind of want to do a stream just to try and relax, to have a little bit of fun, to try and touch base with everybody again. It's been a while since I've done the stream, and I just felt that it would be a good idea to start doing a little bit more streaming. I'm trying to get back into streaming again, trying to work out how to do this properly. Not because I want to do it as a job or anything, but I kind of like the streaming. I enjoy it. It's something that's I quite like doing, and I enjoy it quite a bit. So I thought I'll try and kick back into doing streaming again. I'm not expecting there to be a lot of people coming in today, but should be able to get a couple of half decent videos out of it, and that's kind of what I'm going for at the moment. So we'll see how the stream goes. So, what is the first topic? Hmm? The first topic is a YouTube video. So let's see if we can find it, shall we? Let's see if we can find this YouTube video that I wanted to get done. See if we can sort it, shall we? I'm not 100% sure I can because I think I've actually got rid of all of the other videos. Because, it wouldn't be a Common Sense Guy stream without me messing something up already. And just as always, it's just me. Just me. Always the same. So let's try and see if I can get this sorted. Because I'm quite interested in this video because it's kind of an interesting video. It's really talking about the idea of I don't want to say like complete and utter misinformation, but it kind of is. It really kind of is a bit of misinformation. Um, it's from a YouTuber that's called Think Before You Sleep, and let me just get all the way through it and sort out the ads and everything else because nobody really wants the ads at all. So we'll see how this goes. But this is a Think Before You Sleep YouTuber. He has close to 500,000 subscribers, right? Close to 500,000. And I don't know. It's kind of interesting to me because of how the actual story is. So let me just get this up so we're ready to share rather than people not knowing what I'm doing and everything else like that. So let me just share my video. So here we are, and we are sorting out the video, and hopefully everything will be okay on that side of things. See how that goes. Right, it seems like we're doing okay. The video's there. I don't know if I've actually done. I'm gonna have to stop it because I don't think I shared the right thing. Because this is the whole reason why I don't do this anymore. Because it's too technical for me. It's way too technical for me at the moment. Way too technical. So let's just go through and try and work out what's actually going through on this, shall we? So let me just put that to full screen and try and work it out that way, right? So let's see how this goes, shall we? See, I know that I've paused already, and I know a lot of people are going to go, Why are you pausing it? Why are you pausing it for? Well, the reason why I'm pausing it is because I'll be honest with you. I don't know much about diets, obviously, obviously, but at the same time, I'm not trying to advocate for certain diets. Okay. When somebody says that it's okay to eat animal products exclusively, what he's saying is that he wants them to eat meat exclusively. Now, I'm of the opinion that if you eat any section of food, so if you were to eat meat by itself, fruit by itself, or plants by itself, you're always going to need supplements. So when somebody says that the meat diet is the best diet, it's like, no, it's not. It's a balanced mixed diet. Those are generally what's considered in nutrition as the best form of diets. In actual fact, most of the time, it's a case of you probably want to get rid of any sort of form of gluten or any sort of bread and confectionery and sugars. So that's where we are at the minute. So this is something that you really need to notice. This is a doctor that's pushing nutrition who has a residency in psychology that is pushing the idea of nutrition. So this is why it's the idea of fun, right? Right, before the actual video starts properly, I really want it to be stressed that they were asking a legitimate question, but where does your background come from? And when somebody says condescendingly says, "Listen here" or "Listen," normally you could take the opinion that what's going to come out next is not necessarily somebody that's going to answer the question, but this is the person that I really want to be talking about because this person is really interesting. So let's see how this person reacts and sets the whole story up, shall we? Right. I want that noted that this person, think before you sleep, is saying that a judge that has no background in anything, right? She's able to give any sort of accreditation to what is going on and how nutrition works. But think about it for a second. Where did she say that she's an authority? Where did she dictate to this doctor that she's an authority or that he's wrong or anything else like that? What happened to asking a question of why are you supposed to be this form of an expert? What gives you the right to tell people what they can and cannot do with themselves, for instance, right? Now, you could say, well, it's my right to listen to whoever I want to. And that's perfectly fair. If you want to listen to somebody that's not trained in a particular field to give you advice in that particular field, then go ahead. But don't try and frame it that saying that I want to know why you are good at this as being I'm telling you you're not, because that's not the same thing. I'm not too sure that that generally counts. Just because that you don't eat healthy, that doesn't mean that you don't know what you need to do to eat healthy. After all, the knowledge of being able to do something doesn't mean that you have to do something. I know that smoking was always bad for me, but same as most people do. But when I was younger, I smoked. Does that mean that I didn't know that smoking was bad for me while I was doing it? Of course not. That's really interesting. So, if you haven't got any expertise in a particular area, you should keep your mouth shut and not give your opinion on that aspect. That's really interesting. I wonder what it would be said for me giving you sort of advice, you giving the doctor sort of advice, and the judge giving the doctor that's the psychologist advice. So if we follow your logic pattern back for your argument, the only person that can actually give any advice on this is the actual nutritionist that is actually in the show saying that it's bad, right? Because that's where your logical conclusion goes if you follow that premise. I bet you don't want to follow it anymore, right? By the way, you don't actually study nutrition as an MD. You study biophysics and biochemistry. So you get a basic understanding of most of the aspects that come through. So that's what makes you a general practitioner, as if you're from the UK or a medical diagnosis person in the US. An MD. But let's carry on and see where he goes with this, because I can say that I've studied finance independently. If you put me up against somebody else that had studied finance for God knows, I don't know, 10 years, 4 years, I can guarantee you that that person's going to know more about finance than what I do. That's just a way of how study works. Because it's not about how many articles you can read. It's about how much you actually understand them and can challenge your ideas against somebody else that also knows it. But let's see how this goes, shall we? So this is really, really important, right? I mean, this is really important. If you're a doctor and claiming that you're doing everything that doctors do, so you're reading articles, you're reading the idea of what's good, what's bad, are you doing independent testing? Are you making sure what you say is correct? Do you have studies to back up what you've said? Are you doing the studies to back up what you said if you really do believe in this? Or are you just pushing a form of information to be able to make some money? I don't know. What do you guys think? She makes a really good point. So, is it a case of if I read all of the articles, but I don't understand them fully because I don't have a background in it and I haven't had any sort of residency in it, does that mean that I can fully understand everything that goes on in all of the articles? I would suggest not. I suggest not, which is why we go through peer review, which is why we write articles so we can write down what we think, how we got there, and so it can be read and so it can be tested by other people. That's literally the peer review process, which also happens in medical science because it's still a science. No, not if you're not medically trained and you don't have the correct licenses. Like, generally, I don't think you know how long it takes for people to become doctors. I don't think you know how long it takes to become a professional in a particular field. Just because you have a residency in a particular field, that also doesn't make you an expert. In actual fact, most people that come out of residencies know that they're not experts in that field and know that they have a lot more to learn in those fields. But you carry on and telling me how that you yourself can become an expert in medical science and medical doctoring just by reading articles without any sort of formal training, without any sort of formal practical work, or any doctor actually explaining to you how this works and how that works. If you speak to anybody that has done any sort of medical training whatsoever, you'd know that that's not really that possible. And don't get me wrong, there will be people that can do it. Sure, but that's the reason why we have certification, certification, to make sure that you know these things, to be tested to make sure you know these things. But that's carry on. Firstly, what argument did Dr. Saladino make in the clips that you provided? None. None whatsoever. What bad ideas did she push? The idea that you should be certified to make sure that you're able to perform the duties that you claim that you're able to do. You want to go drive and get a job as a driver? You need to produce your driving license and get a license. This is no different. Yeah, no, you're fair with that. But you also have to have the basic knowledge of what you're doing and the certification to go with it. So the testing to be able to know that you're able to do these things and to be able to do the practice. Now, if you're a leader in the field, the way that you get that certification or that knowledge or that respectability, so to speak, or the credibility is a fact of the peer review system. So you write down what you think is good, what you think is bad, how you got there, and then it gets peer reviewed and tested independently. If it comes up the way that you said it, it's then put into a scientific basis. It is then certified for that point in time until some either changes, it gets better, or other people prove that it doesn't work. That's how science and peer review works. It doesn't work with I read some articles, I can do a thing. It's not how that works. It is, but she didn't ask how you learnt this. She said, rather, how are you an expert in these fields? And being an expert doesn't mean I've just read a book. It means that your theories have been tested. It means that you have been certified in the field that you are trying to go through. That's the reason why we have amateurs, semi professionals, professionals. Oh, I'm going now. I'm going. Carrying on. It The learning doesn't, but what makes you an expert does, because it needs to be certified, it needs to be tested. Oh, don't worry, we won't be making a donation, but we will be watching a lot more stuff. So don't worry about that. Oh dear. The immune system disorder is called lupus, by the way, for people that want to know. Which is really interesting, considering that you're doing a video trying to suggest that the person that's pushing the carnivore diet as something that is a option or a healthy option for people with legitimate medical conditions and medical issues is really interesting, don't you think? You're sitting there doing a video saying, I support this doctor, but I haven't done any research into the doctoring. By the way, I have. If you want to know anything about it, I can very easily just drop all of the information inside of a Google Docs and give it to you if you want. That doesn't mean that I know everything about diets. That doesn't mean I know everything about nutrition, but I can read articles about it and tell you that Healthline or Health Life, the one people that actually go through all of the actual dietaries and diets, rate this as a 1.7 out of 5 diet. It's really bad. It's really bad, honestly. It's really bad dieting. Really bad dieting. But, that takes a Google search to do. That's literally it, a Google search, and you can be there. Like, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. I'll see what we can do, right? I'll see what we can do. Let's see what we can do. Very, very, very quickly. Let's just type this in. Carnivore Diet rating. I know you can't see anything at the moment. I know you can't see anything at the moment, but let's go through it. So I just need to get back to where I was going. Hey, how you doing? It's nice to see you, memes. It's nice to see you, principal officer. It's good to see you both. So I know that the screen's now gone. Oh, I'm not sharing audio. Oh. Do you mean I'm not sharing audio on the source material, I'm guessing, right? I'm guessing. Uh, because of course I'm not. Why would you do that, right? Right. I'm going really well today, isn't it? I have to say I'm a bit annoyed that if that's true. Hey, hey all. Can everybody hear me? Because apparently I'm not really doing the sharing at the moment. Yeah, there's no audio. That's helpful. Right, okay. Well, we're gonna have to go right back to the beginning because that's great. Why? 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 Yeah, yeah, you can hear me. Hearing me is fine. It's at the minute, unfortunately, because of this. Right. So, can people let me know if you can hear this? Right. Okay. Good. 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 Thank you very much. But now you can't see because I haven't got it on the right thing. So, right. Right. There we go. No sound. Oh. Right. Okay. Hang on then. Ah, this is going well. What the hell's wrong with everything today, eh? What's going on? Uh. Do, 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 do. It's been such a long time since I've actually done any of this. It's been great. Been absolutely great. Great. Right, let's try that and see if that works. Okay? Because of course I had to leave. Because of course I had to leave. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. Uh, this is why I don't do shit anymore. I just can't be asked. Right, so let's see if this works. Oh, amazing. Now Google doesn't want to work. Oh my dear gosh. Can anybody still hear me? Am I still there? Am I still coming through? Is the life still there or not? Hi. Hi. I've done really well. I'm definitely going to be winning YouTube awards later. I just want to. That's probably true. Actually, he probably did. He did drone me. He absolutely droned me. Right. Let's see if I can do this then. Right. I think this should be a bit better. So let's start from the beginning and see if you can hear it.
Do you discuss with your patients?
I don't think there are any risks to eating animal foods exclusively.
As an attorney, I would ask you, you're a medical doctor, is that correct?
Absolutely.
And you are a psychiatrist, am I
Right, I
correct?
did a residency in psychiatry.
So what do you know
Please
about
tell me
nutrition?
people can hear it.
Where did you gain your background in nutrition?
Listen, this is, I think...
No, you listen to me and answer my question. Now I'm asking you to tell us where your background emanates from.
So everybody can
really
hear the
great
stream.
way
Yeah?
to have
Everybody
a conversation
can
is
hear
to
it.
ask someone a question,
I can
interrupt
do the
them
show.
before they have a chance to answer it, and then accuse them of not answering that question. I think we've now fully entered into the universe where TV is just a complete...
I'm so happy I could actually do the stream. Right. For people that didn't know, that may or may not have been here at the beginning, this is from a channel called Think Before You Sleep. This is a channel that is at around about just below 500,000 subscribers. So it's a big channel. We're kind of doing this particular video as a bit of fun. It's mainly talking about the idea of misinformation. We'll get to the misinformation aspect soon, but now that we're I need to catch up. Now we're actually doing stuff, we need to catch up. So let me catch up.
Complete parody of itself. A judge with no training in biology telling a medical doctor that he is unqualified to talk about the human body and nutrition.
Right. So first of all, the doctor that is being talked about here is Saladino. He is a psychiatrist. This psychiatrist that doesn't have any training, or at least formal training at all in nutrition, is pushing a particular diet, which is a carnivore diet. So just eating meats, nothing else, just meats. So gents are going to be very happy, but it isn't human, so wrong type of meat for you. But so when the judge was asking the questions, the judge was actually asking the questions and saying, what gives you the right or the knowledge to be able to push this, to understand this, and so on and so forth. And the argument from Think Before You Sleep comes down to, well, you're not an expert too, so you can't ask these questions, which obviously means everybody on YouTube is well out of the job. So let's carry on, shall we?
I think that is quite possibly one of the most hypocritical things I've seen in a while. I mean, just by her appearance, I can tell she doesn't eat healthy. So why is she even in this conversation? Based on her own...
It's really interesting. Oh, okay. So people that are fat can't talk about nutrition? Just because that you know something, that doesn't mean that you implement that knowledge, right? So I can know that smoking's bad for me, right? I know that I've said this before. It's an example that I think actually works really well. I can know that smoking's bad for me. I can know that alcohol's bad for me. I can know that most drugs are bad for me. But yet I might do, have done all of these in the past, even though I know that they're bad for me. It doesn't really wash, does it? Like, just because that you are a particular size, that you don't know what you're doing is bad to you, right? So let's continue.
Own argument, she should keep her mouth shut and only let the doctor speak. Fortunately, for our entertainment, Judge Mary does keep speaking.
So very quickly, if we follow his logical train of thought, right, it ends up coming to the fact of, well, if she's not allowed to speak because she's not an expert, he's not allowed to speak because he's not an expert. I'm not allowed to speak because I'm not an expert. Think before you sleep isn't an expert, therefore he shouldn't speak. See how that logic doesn't follow? It doesn't work, and it really hurts his own argument. So that's carry on.
I went to medical school and I studied nutrition in medical school, and I studied nutrition independently. One of the
Very, very quickly. I've done a little bit of research on this video beforehand. Obviously, otherwise I wouldn't put it up. If anybody wants any of my citations, I will send them a Google Docs. But every time that I've linked to Google Docs beforehand, nobody really looks at the sources. So if anybody wants one, I do have one that is floating around that I can give to them quite easily. Just ask and I can give it to you. And Doc. But from my understanding, that when you are doing your general MD, it is a case of you're not doing any sort of specification. You are doing generalized medicine. So you are learning a general basis or general basics of these things. So even though that you do a form of nutrition, there is no way that you would be able to have any sort of specialized knowledge in nutrition. Same as that you would do the basics of understanding how the body works, but you wouldn't be able to carry out a surgery. No matter how much that you read a book on it, you wouldn't necessarily know how to cut the artery in the right way because you haven't had anybody show you. Nutrition is the same in that aspect. Any form of medicine is the same in that aspect.
crazy things about medical school is that it teaches you how to read articles. I'm a doctor. I know how to read
So
articles.
have you
I know how
done
to read
any
the
independent
literature.
testing? Have you written any articles that was as suggested by the physicians who've been here today?
So that's a very important question. So the general consensus is that the carnivore diet isn't necessarily a great diet for you. It can be on a short term, but it's not good on a long term at all. In actual fact, it's one of the worst diets that you can actually be on if you're actually taking the diet seriously, obviously. So when the judge here asks that question, well, have you wrote any papers? Have you wrote any literature? Is there anything to back up with what you're saying? He should be putting down, I am working on it to show you the fact of what I'm saying as a medical doctor is correct. But let's listen to what the actual remarks are.
What does writing articles have to do with my knowledge of
Well,
nutrition?
because I could be.
So his answer, admittedly, the judge kind of cut him off and should have just let him actually hang himself, in my opinion, is that he's saying, well, what's the point in writing articles for? And it's simply to back up your own opinion. It's simply to back up the science behind your opinion. It's to prove the fact of what you say is true, and here's how I got to it. The fact that you're not writing articles to prove your statement as a medical doctor is very interesting.
Come you. I could be you as an expert because I read all of the data and all of the articles on this subject. Now I'm an expert. That doesn't make me an expert.
Right. Very, very quickly, because I'm going to disagree with Think Before You Sleep again as well. But what she says is true. I can read all of the literature on quantum mechanics. But if I don't understand the literature, do I know the literature? Do I know biomechanics? Or quantum mechanics, sorry. If I've only read the literature and not had somebody teach me what the literature means and not go through what the literature means, not testing the literature, do I actually know it? Am I an expert just because I read the articles? No, of course not. I can read the whole idea of the theory of relativity. Does that mean I understand what the theory of relativity is? Like the equations to it? No, of course not. But I can read it. But that doesn't mean that I understand it, right? I'm not going to become a expert in theoretical physics at that point if I just read a couple of papers on it. If I don't understand it, how can I actually interpret it and then use it? I'm only using the knowledge I think I have rather than the knowledge that I should actually have as an expert, right?
Actually, it does make you an expert.
Nope.
It's possible for you to become a doctor if you put in all the work it takes to become a doctor.
No, it's not. It is not possible to read all of the books and become a doctor. The way that you become a doctor is by doing all of the books, as you said, doing the practical, being shadowed, going all through that actual process to be certified as a doctor. Reading books by itself doesn't make you a doctor. Same as reading particle physics or rocket engines doesn't make me a rocket scientist. It just doesn't.
Also, you do know that saying things loudly doesn't make you correct, right? If you ignore the tone of her voice, you'll notice that Judge Mary said nothing of substance against Dr. Saladino's arguments, and she argues some pretty dangerous ideas.
So, what ideas did she argue there that are dangerous? So, you need to be certified to be an expert. If I have an expert in mechanics that I want to have my car fixed, I don't want somebody that's just read the literature on it. I want somebody that's worked on it for 10 to 15 years, somebody that's got practical knowledge to know what the knocking sound is in the side of my car, to understand that it's not actually something bad. It could just be something loose, for instance. Like those types of knowledge and expertise only comes through time of practice, not from reading a book. Reading a book can give you knowledge, but it doesn't make you an expert. The knowledge in doing that aspect, doing that thing, makes you an expert or a professional. And I don't think that think before you sleep is being honest in how he's trying to explain this. Sure, you don't need to be certified to understand knowledge. But if you want to practice as a doctor, you have to become certified to get a license. The same as if you want to drive a car, you need to be able to have a license because you need to be certified to do it legally, right?
A big part of becoming an expert in any field is self-study and continuing to learn new information as you age into your profession. That's what this carnivore diet doctor is doing. This might be a shot to Judge Mary, but it is possible to learn things outside of college by studying stuff on your own.
Of course.
All of your learning doesn't need to be a part of some certification program. Let's get more into it.
It does if you want to become an expert.
If you like the content you see on this channel, then consider making a donation. Viewer support disorder, they changed to a diet where they only eat meat and eggs. And all.
By the way, because I went a little bit forward than what I did last time, these girls that have the problem have lupus. So that would be more relevant when we get into talking about it later.
All of their symptoms went away. The two girls were invited to the show along with Dr. Paul Saladino to discuss the diet.
By the way, have a look at how he's done this, right? So he's put Carnivore MD, Paul Saladino MD. So he's pushing the fact that he's a medical doctor, pushing the fact that he supposedly had this sort of training in the carnivore diet, in nutrition, to push the fact that he's certified in it. So this advertising in itself, to me, just to me, seems that it's false advertising. You can't put the fact that you're an MD in when you're pushing the idea of a nutrition when you're not a nutritionist. You're not trained in it. So why would you put MD unless you're trying to push the fact that you have a doctorate to make people feel more secure about following your idea, right? You also have the idea of join my tribe. myself, I think that's really iffy. But those are just my opinions. I mean, what does everybody else think on that one? Save a vegan, murder a cow. I mean, to be fair, yeah. Meat's turning my laptop on. Technically, it's not. Dietitians are doctors. Nutritionists are doctors. You do need to go to school to become a nutritionist. They literally have residencies in nutrition. They literally have a 2 to 4 year residency to become a proper nutritionist. And it's a recognized field as well in doctors to give you the actual residency. It's actually recognized, it's actually certified. So when people say, oh, dietitians, they're not doctors, it's like, of course they are. That's why they have doctors. That's why they have a residency. Of course they're trained in it. It's just very interesting to me on that one. Very, very interesting to me. But carrying on, because I know that not everybody's going to be interested in this video because I've done it for like the third time since we got here. But we're doing all right now. We're doing all right. No, you cannot be a dietitian or a nutritionist by just being a personal trainer. You are not certified to be a dietitian. Right, so let's see if I can get that. I'm guessing that's meant. Is that meant for me, Jensen? Dear vegans, I killed this cow because it was eating your food. You're welcome. That's fair. That's fair. That's very, very fair. I actually like and endorse this message. But let's carry on.
Personally, I've done no research on the carnivore diet, so I have nothing to offer to either verify or discredit its validity. A lot of people have been claiming that it helps with autoimmune diseases, and if it does that, I think that's great.
Right, so Think Before We Sleep is saying that he's done no research whatsoever on if the carnivore diet is good, bad, indifferent, or whatever. But there are some people that are saying that it's good for some autoimmune diseases, which in this case is lupus, right? Now, there is not one single study that I can find that can prove that. There is not one single article that I can find that proves that. There is no nutritionist that thinks that. There is no mainstream doctor even that's not already pushing something else beforehand that thinks this. So I find that really interesting that you would actually say that. So as well, I did this before, but I just want to put it in so it's actually there, right? So let me just sort this out to make sure that I know what I'm doing right. So I've stopped sharing this because I want to share something else. So let me just try and work this out, right? No, that's not what I want. I don't want that one. I don't want that one. Don't want that one at all. I want the actual rating. So I'll stop sharing that one because, you know, I'm doing really well again because otherwise it's just the way that it is. So let me share this one. So all you need to know about the carnivore diet, all meat diet. So this is a health line. They'd have no reason to actually lie about anything. They have no reason whatsoever to do that at all, right? So the carnivore diet has been rated 1.17 out of 5. It is one of the worst scores that are actually on here. I can link this to the chat if people want it. You can go through it, you can read it, and so on and so forth, right? So apparently it's claimed to help weight loss, mood issues, bugs, sugar regulation. So if you're diabetic and so on and so forth, right? So overall score 1.7. To actually have weight loss, which claims it is its best aspect, right? 2. It's not good at losing weight at all. It's not great, and it's not the worst, but it's not great, right? Healthy eating. You don't get all of the substances that you need. You don't get all the minerals. You don't get all of the different fats that you need. But at the same time, you also get massive amount of just pure fat. It's not very sustainable either, obviously, because it's fat. It means you're killing lots of animals and so on and so forth. Whole body health, a 0. I've never seen that in any of the diets that have been included in this, right? Never seen it, ever. So nutritional quality is his best aspect because it's a 2.5. Because when you say meats, you mean all of the animal products. So you mean fish, you mean your white meat, your red meat, your crabs, all that type of stuff, right? Your poultry. So yeah, you do get a lot of different nutritional quality, but you don't get all the minerals and vitamins that you actually need for it, which is why we have fruit, which is why we have veg, right? So I find that really interesting. Don't get me wrong, I love steak as much as the next guy. I absolutely love it. But if people want this, I will link it into the chat down below, right? So let me get back to the actual good old video, right? It is a possibility, Mr. Jensen. It is a possibility. It has a possibility. So let's go back to Trust the Scientist, which is the title of this video, right? Which is why I kind of wanted to look at it. So let's carry on. So we kind of know that at this point in time that he hasn't done any research whatsoever, but he's going to defend the carnivore diet and the doctor.
However, I won't be discussing the science of that today.
Of course,
I
you
don't
won't.
have to discuss the science because despite there being several doctors against the carnivore diet on the panel, a grand total of 0 of them use the scientific method to argue that the carnivore diet is bad for you.
They're asking for evidence of his claim. The evidence isn't a case of, well, what we're going to do is prove your claim wrong. In science, it is a case of if you have a claim, you need to prove that claim. Science will then try to disprove the claim after you've made evidence for the claim. You can't just go, well, I think that unicorns exist. Prove me wrong. You would have to prove the fact of unicorns existing first. So if you were to show horses' hooves, for instance, and go, well, I think that's a unicorn, people can then go, well, I don't think that's a unicorn, that's horses' hooves, right? So this doesn't work.
For example,
I'm a board certified physician nutrition specialist.
Right.
I have been practicing nutrition exclusively. I'm trained as an internist. I was originally board certified in internal medicine. I have spent 20 years. You've been dallying in this for a few years, reading articles. I've been doing it, working with patients.
did you hear any science in this segment used to disprove Dr. Saladino's claim?
No, the reason for that is to prove the fact of the matter that she's an expert in the field. That's not to say, well, you're not an expert, therefore. It's to say, when you claim to be something, but you don't have any evidence to prove the fact that you are that thing, 9 times out of 10, you can just go, well, I am this thing, and I'm telling you there are no scientific methods to prove this fact. The way that you can cut that video up to go, oh, well, she didn't say anything. It sounded like she was just about to go on a rant. But then you cut it up. Why did you stop her mid-sentence? Right? Why did you stop her mid-sentence? Because that's what it looked like to me. Didn't look like she stopped at, well, I'm a medical doctor. Sounded like she was going to go somewhere with it. I wonder why you cut it out.
What I heard from Dr. Molina was, I have a degree. I've been doing this for 20 years. You're wrong. Now, that's a great propaganda technique, but it's certainly not science. People who don't know how the scientific method works are easily fooled by appeals to authority that are used in the place of evidence. Calling yourself an expert doesn't make you an expert.
This is why I wanted to do this video, right? This is why I want to make this response. So remember when he said at the beginning that anybody can become an expert. But saying that you've had 20 years experience, saying that you've got the certifications and the processes to go through it, right? He then says, well, that doesn't make you an expert. So what does make you an expert for this guy's actual opinion then, right? Is it the fact of what matches my opinion makes you an expert? Or is it actually a case of there are measurable measurable aspects to whether or not he believes that there is a expert level or something? Because at the minute he seems just to be, I don't know, wish-washy. I think it's double standards. Saying, oh, well, I think he's an expert because he can read articles. She's not an expert because she's had 20 years experience at the top of her field, being certified, being board certified, and accepted by the medical board. But that doesn't make her an expert. He's an expert because he's got some articles that I agree with, maybe. I mean, come on, I'm not the only one, right? I'm not the only one here, right? Yeah, okay. There is a difference between nutritionists and dietitians. I'll give you that, but they still have to go to school to learn the actual dietitians. But again, that's also a form of residency. It's a specialization. You can't just go, yeah, you're a nurse. Here you go. No, you even with being a nurse, you have to go to understand dietitianry. Nutritionists, I'll give you that. They need to be doctors. Dietitians, maybe not. But nutritionists, yeah.
You actually need to prove that you know what you're talking about by using facts, reasoning, and evidence. Saying that you have a degree, I guess, is technically a fact, but it's not evidence of your claim against this diet. Speaking of that degree, Dr. Paul Saladino made a response video to this segment. Let's see what he says about Dr. Molina's degree.
I don't know if most people listening to the doctors realize that everybody goes to the same medical school. There's not like a medical school for surgeon and a medical school for family practice and a medical school for family medicine.
No, there isn't. That's why it's a general practice. But there are different residencies that you go to. Hence why you didn't just stay at the same school to do your psychology degree. You did an MD and then went off to do psychology as a residency. The same as what she did for nutrition.
We all go to the same medical school. So we all get an MD and then we choose to do a residency in the field that suits us best. So I did the same biochemistry training. I did the same nutrition training as any person up there, right? And no person up there got nutrition training in their residency. And that Melina Jampoulis, who they're putting out as a nutrition specialist, took an online or an in-person course that is not HEGME certified and is a fake nutrition certification.
This is going to piss me off. So we're going to get this done right now, okay? We're going to get this done right now. We're going to get it done as quickly as possible, right? We're going to use Bing and we're going to sort this out. At least I think we are. I hope we are. Let's try and do this properly, right? So we use the Bing aspect, right? You're going to see my lovely, lovely, lovely way of being able to spell, because I'm going to spell this wrong because, you know, I'm great. Yeah, that didn't work. That didn't work, did it? Oh. I think that's the right one, isn't it? Yeah, nutritionist. So you can get CDP accredited. There's let me just type in residency, right? Nutritionist residency. See how that goes. Oh look. So there is nutritional fellowship programs to give you clinical nutrition training, US and Canadian clinical approaches. So there's literally a fellowship. Oh, National Board of Physician Nutrition Specialists. Sounds like that's creditable, doesn't it? Sounds like it. I mean, it may not be. May not be. So I can't remember what her actual name is, which is always helpful. I can't remember what her actual name is, which is always helpful. Let me just go back just a little bit. I can't remember her name. Can anybody else remember her name? Yeah, sure. No, I understood what you say now, principal officer, where you're saying a dietitian, right? I get it. Dietitian doesn't necessarily mean that you're certified. Well, nutritionist does. You're absolutely correct. It is my misunderstanding. I do not mind admitting when I am wrong. It's something that I like to do on my own channel. Dietitian is completely different to a nutritionist. I completely admit that, and I will bow down to your superior knowledge on that aspect. But as far as I'm aware, at the minute, I can't remember her name, and I can't be bothered to actually check her name, to be honest with you. But I know that the programs that she's been on, she actually does have proper certified qualifications that have actually been certified by the medical board. So I don't know why this doctor is lying. I don't know why the person that did this video couldn't just do a quick YouTube search to be able to find these things out, because it doesn't take long. So let's get back to the actual video. At least I hope so, anyway, because I want to get rid of that. Because apparently, only was supposed to do that for a quick one. I've got so many things that I want to get through. Like, I want to do the Novak Djokovic issues as well. I really want to touch on that because I think that it's very interesting at the moment. So let's carry on.
Once you complete it, you choose a program of study called a residency, where you learn your area of expertise outside of the school system. But that's exactly what Judge Mary said makes Dr. Saladino unqualified.
No, she didn't. She said that he wasn't qualified to do nutrition work because he did a residency in psychology, you fucking idiot.
Bottom
not
line
fair.
is you practice psychiatry. Am I correct?
I practice medicine.
You practice psychiatry. Is that
practice
correct?
Medicine.
So what makes you an expert in this?
Because an expert in what? An expert in understanding human physiology?
No, understanding nutrition. As I've shown you before, the carnivore diet is one of the worst diets out there. But yet people still push it as one of the best diets out there. And it boggles my mind that people still believe that type of stuff, right? But let's carry on, especially when YouTubers with over 500,000 subscribers, or just under, sorry, are pushing a narrative saying, well, look at this, don't trust the scientists because the scientists don't know anything. It's like, but they do. They're showing you why that you don't. You're cutting things up dishonestly, and yet you still are not doing any research while telling people you're not doing any research to get this done. I mean, come on.
Wow. You can tell that she's a lawyer and a judge when you hear her repeat the same question over and over again, trying to get Dr. Saladino to give her the answer that she wants. That's a manipulation tactic that abusers will commonly use, and it's commonly used in court. Tell me, though, if they get the same background in biology during medical school, they learn how to read research, and they both do continuing education programs, how does that make one qualified and the other not qualified?
Because if I do qualifications in goddamn car mechanics, that does not mean that I can fit goddamn electrics. Just because I am qualified in one field does not mean I am qualified in another. How is that goddamn hard to understand?
It seems to be that the determining factor here on whether someone is qualified or not is purely based on if you agree with their ideas. And of course, Judge Mary gaslights when Dr. Saladino points out her lack of consistency.
To say that because I'm a psychiatrist, I don't know about nutrition is a completely...
I didn't say that.
That's
your
what you were
expertise
inferring. That's
is
what
the
you were
mind.
inferring.
Again, bringing out the lawyer card.
That's not the lawyer card. That's exactly what she was saying. She was saying your expertise is in psychology. You are an amateur when it comes to nutrition. The same as I would be if I was studying something else. I am not a philosophy king if I start reading philosophy books. I would only be an expert if I get qualified in my field and I am able to write papers explaining what my points of view are and what my views are on certain theological aspects. But that obviously doesn't cross think before you sleep at all. Apparently, this is all about my side versus your side, rather than it being an actual aspect of, is the diet any good? Think before we sleep's response. I don't really care about if the diet's any good or not. Let's talk about rhetoric. Because that's all he's doing here. He's just talking about rhetoric.
Yeah, you didn't explicitly say it, but the purpose of you talking about his qualifications was to discredit him by saying, you're not a trained nutritionist, therefore your opinion is invalid.
That's not what she was doing. She was asking, what's your expertise in this field? Why are you able to give people advice? Remember, the whole aspect of this story was that he gave advice to these two girls that had lupus, saying, go on a carnivore diet. He is not a nutritionist. He should not be giving medical advice as a nutritionist. That's the whole point here, right? But that doesn't matter because we're talking about rhetoric.
The complete irony of this claim is that no one on this panel is a nutritionist except for Dr. Molina, yet they all claim to have the authority. Oddly enough,
I don't know anybody that's claimed to have authority here. If you're asking what makes you an expert, that's not saying I have more authority than you. That's saying, why are you an expert? My head hurts.
Dr. Molina did not go to school for nutrition, just like the carnivore diet guy, Dr. Saladino.
She did. There's a whole accreditation for it and residency for it. I will put it up on the screen when I do a video for this now. I will look for the actual thing and I will put it on the screen when I do a video for this. Because that's absolutely amazing that you just can't Google what accreditation that she's got. It's mind-boggling to me.
Yet she is considered qualified, but he's not.
Scary thought.
Yes, because she has qualifications. You understand how being qualified for something works, right? I'm qualified to make your to do your brain surgery today. Oh, okay. What qualifications have you got? Oh, you know, I got qualifications in construction. You know, it's similar. You know, I'm cutting off using the saw. You know, using a bit of a screwdriver. You know, just to see what's around there. You know, but I'm qualified. It's like, oh no.
Thought process that is all you need to do is read articles to make you an expert.
How
I
else
want to know what kind of testing you've done, what kind of data you have, what you yourself have found regarding these issues,
I'm not sure.
other than what reliance is on other people's
I'm not sure I
findings.
understand your question because that's how.
That's absolutely amazing to me. He's a doctor. He doesn't understand how peer review works. He doesn't understand how, if you are pushing that something that you believe in is true, that goes against the consensus, that it should be you that is pushing to prove that right. If it's your theory, you should be pushing to prove it's right. Is that not the reason why he went on this show? To prove his theory correct? If he's a doctor, which he is, and he thinks that this theory is absolutely correct, why wouldn't he just prove it? We can tell you why, because it's not fucking true.
You don't want to listen to my question because you know I'm right.
What? Man, she is incredibly arrogant. Does this judge even have a remote understanding of how the medical field works? Researcher and medical doctor are two different fields.
Correct. So how can you say that somebody that's doing psychology in one field is different to another that is not different, is not different to another field in nutrition? But when you're doing researching, which apparently the doctor's done to prove his point, remember, you said he did because he read all of the articles. Well, what do you think research doctors do? They also prove by testing, right? These are still medical doctors that have particular specifications. But guess what? You said they don't count and anybody can do it. But now you're saying that they can't do that because they're different. I wish you would pick a side. I wish you would.
Just because you're a doctor doesn't mean you carry out research.
Just because you're a doctor doesn't mean that you're trained in one field compared to another. That's it. Everybody can go home. Thank you very much. Good night.
Probably most doctors don't do their own research. They treat patients. Where do they get the knowledge to treat patients? By reading journal articles and scientific papers.
You're an idiot. What the fuck do you think research is? Research is a broad spectrum of things. If I want to research a topic, I can read articles on what other people have done to prove my theory. But if my theory differs to them, I will have to prove my theory, right? If I am learning about something, I just have to read the articles and follow what's already been done by the experts to learn from the experts. But if I'm apparently the expert in my field, I'm the one that needs to write the papers and lead the field. My head. I definitely need more alcohol.
That's all a medical textbook is. It's a collection of research papers written in a format that's more digestible.
But it's
a
research.
Secondary source. Insulting Dr. Saladino for reading the primary sources himself and instead suggesting that he should read someone else's interpretation of the primary sources is incredibly propagandistic.
The fact that you said that means that you are goddamn stupid. She is saying, have you read any tests? No. Have you done any tests? No. How do you know your theory's correct? How are you this goddamn stupid?
The judge is basically saying, you're only allowed to learn from sources that we approve of. And
that's not what she was saying. She was saying, how did you get to your conclusions if you haven't done any actual research or any actual testing? When you said that she was gaslighting earlier, I'm glad that you know what the term is, because you seem to be fitting it.
And that's incredibly unscientific. I'm surprised that none of the panel called her on that, because the way Dr. Saladino is learning about the carnivore diet is the way that medical doctors are supposed to learn. Speaking of the other doctors, let's get back to Dr. Molina.
My oath is first do no harm. And I am not a plant-based person. I don't advocate only plants. I think meat, I think there is nutrient density. I think getting rid of the processed foods and the toxins in processed foods, that's what's damaging the gut.
Study that meat is dangerous.
Show me the study that...
There are actually loads of studies that say just eating meat by itself. Loads of studies. Like generally, you can Google on Google Scholar and it will show you thousands of studies that's saying just eating meat causes dementia quicker, that causes cancer quicker. When you say, oh, show me the study that shows meat's dangerous, there are studies that show these things. If you had done one modicum of research that you said that you've done, doctor, then why did you not know that red meat, for instance, by itself is almost 10 times more likely to give you cancer than if you didn't eat it? But yet you've done the research, right?
broccoli is dangerous to lupus.
Okay, wait. I will show you the study.
There is no study to say that broccoli is dangerous for somebody to eat in lupus. Like, literally, there is no study to say that. But, okay.
The lack of discussion on this show is incredible. It's pure propaganda. Of course, processed foods are bad for you, but he asked you for a study that says meat is dangerous, and you counter with, no, you show me a study.
Because the claim is from him that states that the carnivore diet is a great diet. If you're pushing the narrative of saying that this is a great diet, then you should have evidence to prove your claim. It is not upon somebody else to disprove your claim without any evidence. Again, back to the unicorn example, I can't say that a unicorn exists without trying to prove that the unicorn exists. If I use evidence of hoof prints or horses prints, whatever, hoof prints, that's the right one. There we go. Showing my ignorance and stupidity yet again. But if we look at the hoof prints and we go, well, that looks like a horse, so it could be a unicorn, we would still go, well, no, they're horse hoof prints because the horses are over there. Like, that's how peer review and evidence works. I still can't believe that this is only a
That's not an
20-minute video and
argument.
I've taken
You
this
made the
long.
claim. He asked you for your evidence and you refused to give it to him. You have not verified your claim with any supporting facts, reason, or evidence. Therefore, your claim is invalid. But the producers...
Does that work for him as well then? Because if he hasn't produced any evidence and she hasn't produced any evidence, but hers doesn't count, does that mean by your logic that his doesn't count either? Or are we having a biasness here?
don't want you to think that, so they cued the audience to clap at her non-argument. Now, I've been in the audience on...
All right, very, very quickly, because I want to skip this bit. He's going to talk about the aspect of the clapping and auto cues and stuff like that. For anybody that knows anything about TV, they know that happens. So we're just going to skip that because I just can't be asked with that as an argument for anything.
Instead of actual science. Look, here they are doing it again.
Dr. Khan, you're...
Look at this. Look at this. Pouch automatically
I'm really
tries
sorry
all
for
the
the
codes
advert,
it knows
guys.
about from all over the web and tries...
You're a cardiologist.
I wonder what Dr. Saladino, a colleague of mine and a psychiatrist, was doing research on this morning in the National Library of Medicine PubMed.
So this is really important. So he is a cardiologist, which means he does stuff to do with the heart and stuff like that, which means that he has to have some stuff to do with knowledge of what nutrition is going to help and hurt the heart, right? So there is some background in it. But the fact is that he's right. There is no nutritionist or the other sort of form of residency for that, right? But yet on PubMed, there is literally no studies to say by any stretch of the imagination that the carnivore diet by itself is a good diet. None. Zero. For instance, veganism has over 111 million different studies to say that veganism is a good choice. Same as vegetarian has something very, very similar. A mixture of all three to prove the fact that carnivore diets by itself are bad are, I believe, in around about the 50,000 sort of range at the moment. I think 50,000 to 110,000. But they're all on there. But let's see how the Think Before You Sleep decides to discredit him.
Is all the research studies that are randomized on the carnivore diet. There is not one.
But wait, that guy's a cardiologist. He's not a nutritionist. Therefore, by the logic of the doctors, he is unqualified to talk about diet.
Notice how the way that he's dismissed him is by saying, well, he's not an expert. It's like, okay, I understand kind of where you're coming from, but notice that he didn't say that he's an expert and here's my expert opinion on the diet. He's pointing out the fact that the experts that are doing this to try and say that the carnivore diet is good, there is not one single paper, there is zero to actually back up the doctor's claim. And the way that this guy decides that he's going to literally jump over that, right, is by saying, well, you know, cardiologist, so he's obviously not an expert in this field, so we can knock him off. It's like, nobody's done that except you.
Where's his background in nutrition? Where's his personal research on this subject? His only argument is that there is no evidence, followed by an anecdote that it didn't show because he didn't cite any counter research.
That's not an antidote. That is proof of referencing. So if you have no references to back up your claim, 9 times out of 10, your claim is invalid. Because if there was, there would have been a study on it. At least one. But there are zero to say that the carnivore diet by itself is a good diet. Zero. Your argument is, well, you know, that's antidotal. It's like, no, that's factual. Which is why they were asking him, has he done the testing himself? Funny how that circle goes round in that sort of a motion, isn't it?
But unless you've read every piece of research, how do you know there's no evidence?
Do you not know how PubMed works? It's like Google Scholar. It has all of the medical journals and medical papers in one place so you can search them. Jesus fucking Christ.
PubMed isn't the only database. Evidence of absence is not absence of evidence.
Ow! Ow! If you are trying to prove something, you prove it with evidence. If you do not have the evidence to prove it, we can assume that it doesn't exist. That sounds like an argument against God. Anyway, next stream.
There actually is evidence that says that the carnivore diet is safe in the short term, but Dr. Joel Kahn weasels out of this by saying that there are no randomized trials for the carnivore diet, but fails to mention that randomized trials for diets are incredibly difficult to perform, especially for a long-term study, because diets have like a 95% dropout rate after 3 months.
Note that he says this, but there is an actual study that he cites himself that went on for, I believe, 5 to 10 years of all three that he cites himself. It's interesting how he likes to try and cherry pick data and say that there isn't this type of data here, so he's obviously wrong. It's like the way that we use randomized data and randomized testing is to make sure that you have a control group, to make sure that you have the group that you're trying to study, and to make sure that you have other groups that would be doing something similar, or a third group if you want to, right? So, but generally you have a control group, maybe a placebo group, and maybe a group that you're targeting. So generally you have three groups. Generally that's how it works. Again, I'm basic knowledge in this. I'm not trying to pretend that I'm anything special. I'm not. But that's generally how that works. And yeah, diets are very hard to make sure that you keep them in that aspect. But when you're saying that you're trying to prove something, and there is not one single study to back up what you are saying, that's absolutely amazing.
There are probably very few randomized trials for any of the popular diet trends.
Probably. Didn't search it, but probably. Again, veganism, 111 million different studies. Just one Google search.
However, if you aim to prove that the carnivore diet is dangerous, then you need to prove that claim by showing research that it's unhealthy, not by saying, you don't have any evidence that it is healthy. Here's the thing. They want to make it look like Dr. Saladino doesn't actually read research and has no evidence, when the fact of the matter is that he gave them studies to read about the carnivore diet before the show.
No, he gave them articles, not studies. If there were studies, they would have found it on PubMed. Carrying on. Which is interesting, because the only study that he brings up is one from 1930. And it was only with 2 people. But let's carry on.
I provided a list of 36 studies to the doctors for this episode. Every single person up there had a 36 study bibliography of all the studies that I wanted to talk about, but they didn't read them, and they certainly didn't reference them at all during this event.
Spending the segment claiming that there are no studies or using terms like randomized trials that the audience likely doesn't understand the nuance of, when he provided you 36 studies before the show, is very dishonest. It shows that these people do not care about the truth. They just care about confirming their bias.
Yes, when somebody says to you that they are happy for meats and they want a balanced diet, and I'm trying to make sure that kids with lupus are actually being looked after properly, and there is evidence to show that just eating meat is dangerous and shows that you don't get the correct nutritions in an already autoimmune body, is something of a concerning issue. If you're trying to say that, oh, in this specific thing that you have a control group of 2, and it was a case of it being performed for less than a year or just over a year, and they felt okay at the end, that's not a good enough study. Especially when you have the other aspects of being on different other minerals and supplements. It's ridiculously stupid when you say, oh, well, there are no studies that go with other trends. but apparently he was able to find 36 on the carnivore diet trend. It's amazing to me that there are people out there that actually think like this and deal with this, like generally.
The only good thing I saw the doctors do this entire episode was mention a conflict of interest by saying that Joel Kahn is a vegan. So at least they were honest once.
What does that mean? Well, that he's going to be against the carnivore diet because he's a vegan? So why is the other doctors, why are all the rest of them against it? That makes no sense. The fact that you put so much bias onto him that's a vegan is interesting, but you won't put any bias onto the person that is literally making it a business model to push a particular diet. He has apparently no ulterior motive to push this diet. He's just doing it to help the kids, right?
Being that Dr. Saladino was the only one who seems to have provided actual research examples, let's hear what he has to say.
So in 1930, there was a study published in the British Medical Journal of a year-long investigation of 2 people in Bellevue Medical Hospital who were eating an exclusive carnivore diet. And during that period of time, these people experienced no negative effects, no dangerous changes in blood pressure, kidney function. They only experienced good things, a little bit of weight loss, and came out of the study saying that they felt better than when they started.
I'll admit that a study from almost a century ago done on only 2 people is kind of weak evidence. Dr. Saladino counters this by saying there are very few nutritional studies that are as stringent as the study he brought up, which is probably also true. It's very hard to tell people, for the next 20 years, you're only allowed to eat meat. Or, for the next 20 years, you're only allowed to eat plants. The best thing we could probably get away with is to have maybe several groups of 10 people who go on different diets like vegan, carnivore, paleo, or gluten-free, plus a control group, and we see what does what over a 1-year period. The problem is that getting 40 average Americans who previously did not eat healthy to switch to a very stringent diet for even just 1 year is incredibly difficult. The only other study I've seen like that was Dr. Esselstyn's study on fighting heart disease with a low-fat, whole-food, plant-based diet. I believe he started out with 24 and was somehow able to keep 18 of them on the diet over a 5-year period.
So I let that play all the way through because I wanted to let you see if you can pick something up. So he was saying that there are so many different studies to be able to prove the carnivore diet as being a good diet. So Think Before You Sleep did a search to see if there was any studies that would back him up or be able to go around to how he would think a study should be done, right? Notice how he didn't find one on the carnivore diet. He found one on the different aspects of diets that affect heart disease and how the plant-based diet helped heart disease. Interesting that, isn't it? That he looked for studies to be able to push his own bias on this aspect, but couldn't find one. So he used a plant-based study to show how he would want the studies to be set out. Interesting, right?
As far as I'm aware, it took an incredible amount of work and checking up on to keep those people on this diet.
Literally, there are thousands and thousands of studies that show the benefits of fruits, vegetables, nuts. And we're not saying it's bad for you. I ate.
On PubMed, there is over 111 million studies. That's on veganism and vegetarianism. There are even more studies on the idea of a balanced nutritional diet. If you are asking somebody to prove the common consensus while saying that what you believe to be correct without providing source material by saying I'm an expert because I read articles, but I won't do the testing or the proving myself because I'm not the right kind of doctor, but I'm an expert in nutrition because I'm a doctor. I kind of find it funny and hypocritical for you to ask other people for studies when if you've done an ounce or modicum of research, you would know that there are tons of studies to prove this, that nutritional diets are the best form of diets, or a balanced diet, sorry, is the best form of nutritional diets.
Meat last night, but you keep getting back to no one is saying meat is bad for you. What we are saying is if all you eat for your whole life ever is just meat, that's not good. I don't have to be a doctor. I'm just like, I'm blown away right now.
Being indignant about a topic is not an argument or evidence of your point.
But it is proof of the frustration that it doesn't seem to be going productively. So he keeps on, the doctor, Dr. Saladino, keeps on saying, well, when other people bring up the points of, well, vegetables are good for you. Oh, show me a study. Okay, well, a balanced diet is good for you. Okay, show me the study. Then they clap back and say, well, show me a study saying that the carnivore diet is a good diet. And he's like, shows a 1930s study that is for 2 people over a year in a massively controlled area, which was a hospital, and wasn't controlled for if they were given any supplements in between as well for that diet. But apparently, that's okay. That's a biocity, apparently, a bioicity.
There are thousands of studies? Okay, show me one. Considering that you have...
Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. You showed us one. Remember? You showed us how eating a plant-based diet helps with heart disease. That was in your own video. How does that make you feel?
So much source material, that should be easy. This would be like if I didn't like anime and someone said, how could you not like anime? There are thousands of different shows that are phenomenal. To which I respond, okay, name one good show. Followed by the person arguing that anime is good, coming up with no answers. Now, because I don't agree with my hypothetical take that all anime is bad, I can absolutely name a single good show. Outlaw Star. There, I did it. Now you have a tangible item that you can either praise or criticize. If there are so many examples of research that prove your claim, why can't you name one?
You did.
I'm emphasizing this because woke people seem to make this kind of argument all the time, but never seem to be able to provide a single piece of data for what they're saying. Every time you...
And idiots like yourself that call other people that ask for studies woke literally disprove yourself in the same aspect. You want a study? You found one. In actual fact, you found one so good that it fit your own criteria to prove that plant-based diets are the best form of diets for people that have heart conditions.
Push them on their data, they either have no answer or they tell you to Google it yourself. Why? Because they don't want you to have the ability to criticize them, and giving you a specific example instead of some abstraction allows you to do that. They just want to say things loudly to bully people into agreeing with them. So even if you don't agree with the carnivore studies that Dr. Saladino brought up, you should respect his actions and willingness to be criticized.
First, he brought up one study. He said that he had 34 studies, but he's never provided those citations. The ones that he does provide are either that one study and articles talking about different studies. But none of them are always good. Most of them are saying that it's good in a short term. Like the studies that he does actually show are saying that in a short term it seems good, but could have adverse effects in the long run. Any sort of people that have done any sort of form of dietitianary or nutritional aspects or evaluation on this diet all have the same opinion. Now generally ask yourself, why is he trying to push that a diet that around about 98% of nutritionists, dietitians, and any sort of form of medical person will go, yeah, that's a bad diet? Why is he pushing it? Could it have something to do with financial incentive, considering he's selling the diet? Remember, join my tribe.
Him throwing a specific study out there gives his opponents a chance to discredit him, while his opponents saying, there's tons of research, go look it up, gives Dr. Saladino zero chance to question the credibility of their research. So I don't accept the argument from the doctor.
You mean all of the research in mainstream science that says that balanced diets are good for you? The idea of veganism is apparently good for you. The idea of vegetarianism is apparently good for you. The idea of pescatarianism is good for you. The idea that paleo diets are good for you, which is again a mixture of diets again. The idea that gluten-free diets are good for you. But guess what? When anybody talks about the idea of a carnivore diet, the general consensus of around about 90% of people and nutritionists generally all state that it's a bad idea to consistently be on just meat diet. But you know, there's no studies.
Doctors about this diet being unhealthy. They said that eating only meat is bad for you. They made the claim, therefore, they need to show the data. When you were having conversations with people, particularly radical leftists, you need to push them on this because otherwise they will do everything in their power to avoid giving you specific examples of what they're talking about.
You gave
the
the
less
example.
specific their claim is, the easier it is for them to manipulate you. If someone calls you a misogynist or a racist, you need to ask for a specific example of that, and if they can't give you one, their claim is invalid.
Generally, this is an attack on leftists, and whether you agree with them or not, that's fine. But he does actually make a generally good point in this aspect. If somebody starts calling you something and you ask for a claim and they don't, 9 times out of 10, you should actually just, not bother with them at all.
They don't want to be criticized, and that is evident in their behavior. Listen to how Dr. Molina treated Dr. Saladino after the show.
I'm not listening to it.
So after this podcast, after this interview goes down on the doctors, I have, I walk out of the stage and, we go upstairs to the dressing rooms and Melina Jampoulos is.
I'll be really honest with you. I want to move on to the next story. There's a couple of minutes left. The main aspect of what happens in this video next is a case of the doctor there is talking about the other doctor, the female doctor. He asked her to appear on a podcast. She says no. What? So you can railroad me on your podcast? No, I'll give that a miss. He then becomes a little bit more forceful. And then she basically, apparently according to him and others that he claims will back him up, apparently went to try and attack him and security broke it up. I think I'm doing that enough justice. I don't necessarily know if that happened or not. There doesn't seem to be any sort of record of that at all, apart from his statements for it, which I have no reason to doubt. I have no reason to disbelieve. It's just, I don't know. It seems interesting. That's all. So I'm hoping that I can now Sorry, every now and again I just have a look at the chat and I don't get a chance to be fair. Yeah, no, that's fine. I kind of agree. So what I want to do now is I want to try and get to the Novak Djokovic aspects, and then I want to try and touch on Boris Johnson. So I want to try and get the Novak Djokovic done stuff first because I actually think it's really important. Like generally think that it's really important, but I want to do the Boris Johnson stuff as well because I think that's also important. So the aspect with Novak Djokovic is, in my opinion, I think it's a really interesting story. Not because I want to try and support what some people say are or is a vaccine denier or somebody that goes out of their way to not get the vaccine. The reason why I say this is because Djokovic has never actually really declared what his vaccine status is. I'm not trying to say that he isn't an anti-vaxxer. I'm not trying to say that he has got a vaccine or hasn't got a vaccine. I just think it's a really interesting topic because with this aspect, now some people may say, oh, this is because of money. Some people may say, oh, well, this is because he's the number one and there's a lot of pressure on it and everything else like that. but he's been taken to the tennis board, and they have assessed him independently to be able to see if he meets medical exemption. And it seems that he passed those medical boards. So I don't know if people want to say that he does or he doesn't actually meet those he meets those requirements or not. It does seem that he does, because otherwise why would they give him the exemption? Again, you could argue that it's money, it's power, it's a case of the number one not being able to defend it. I see the arguments. It's just a case of, well, why would they announce it that he's passed the medical exemption boards? Surely that would have been kept under the table, right? So in here, for me, it seems that what they've done is the tennis people have said, no, he's passed. And now the border force or the Australian government have seen the backlash and have gone, well, he didn't really pass the entry. And it's just like, really? That's kind of interesting. And faces deportation after his visa was cancelled amid a row over his medical exemption from COVID vaccination rules, right? So he's hoping to defend his title later. Border officials have said the number one failed to provide appropriate evidence to meet the country's requirements. Now, I don't know necessarily what that is. But I'm pretty sure that if he's going for medical exemption, then surely that would be a case of he's passed it on an independent tennis board. So why wouldn't he pass the border force aspect afterwards? It seems to me, and I could be wrong, this is more political posturing than actual legalities. Because if he has enough to be able to get medical exemption, I don't know what it is. I have no idea. But he's claimed it. The board has said that he may be able to get it or he should get it. So I don't know where this is, but I think it's interesting and it's a story that should be talked about properly. So there was an error and ultimately refused entry. So apparently he's been held up because of an error with his visa. So, and the court's apparently planning to appeal, which is something that I would expect them to do. So again, this is to say that he hasn't actually announced whether or not he's been jabbed. So he may not actually be vaccinated. He may be vaccinated. He's actually gone out of his way to not say. Now, if I had to put my opinion on it, I'd actually say that he's not vaccinated, in my opinion. But that's my opinion. I do not know. So he was to receive an exemption to compete in a national top tennis tournament. So that's the reason why I say it's a really interesting story, because you do have the fact that he has passed an exemption to be able to play. So he does have a medical condition that excludes him from having the vaccine that has been found out independently via the tennis board. Again, you can argue, well, he's number one, they're going to find an exemption for him. And I agree with you. Maybe they could, maybe they should, maybe they have. But if he's found an exemption within those tennis rules, then it seems really interesting that the government has found a error in his visa. So it'd be really interesting to find out what's going to happen with that one. Because I don't know where I fall on it. Because it sounds like he has a medical exemption, right? It sounds like he has a medical exemption. And it sounds like he passed the independent process to be able to say that he has a medical exemption, right? But it's saying that his visa is the reason why he can't stay. I find that really interesting, and that really screams to me of a political grandstanding. They've seen a fact of people are kicking off that he's able to play without having this apparent vaccine, even though that people don't even understand that he has a medical exemption. He's been given the medical exemption to be able to play in the Australian Open. So why is he being kicked out? It's not because he doesn't have a medical aspect or a medical issue. It's not because that his medical exemption's been challenged. No, it's because there's an issue with his visa that has been spotted by the Border Patrol, the Border Force, that is controlled by government that has ratings that it needs to follow. I don't know. It sounds interesting. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm being a little bit too conspiratorial on that aspect, or do you think that there's actually truth to that? So I don't know. What do you guys think on that one? I know there's not many here at the moment, and that's absolutely fine. It's not really a stream that I'd expect to get a lot of people in, but hopefully the videos should be a little bit better. I will add to them. Monster Museum is a great anime, to be fair. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. If you are able to get a medical exemption from the tennis, and he hasn't been kicked out for not being medically exempt, then why is he being kicked out? He's being kicked out because apparently he didn't fill in his visa correctly. That there's a problem with his visa. I don't know. To me, chat, it sounds a little bit iffy. I don't know. I will say that I also agree with Jensen Quinn that D&D is absolutely awesome, and I would like to play in more D&Ds, but I don't really get invited that often. So, yeah, I think that's okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about Boris Johnson and everything wrong with Boris Johnson. So, in my description box on YouTube, you will see that there is there is a link to how long this story's been going on for, right? It's been going on for longer than 8 months. So almost a full year that this story's been going on. So this story is a case of Boris Johnson, in my opinion, from what I've seen, quid pro quoing, basically to quo, right? Trying to get something for something else, which obviously, as we know, is illegal. And it seems that he's trying to get money while talking to somebody, well, Lord Brownfell, about helping him with his project so he can get more money for his flat, right? That's what it sounds like. That's what it seems to be. So if you want to have a look at the link, it will show you that it's around about 8 months old, at least around about April of last year, right? That's when apparently it came out, probably around about the 24th or the 27th, around about then. So this is Sky News on the 6th of January, where Boris Johnson is being asked about the findings of a particular investigation, shall we say, a particular investigation, right? And this investigation has found some certain things, right? But more importantly, this is what Boris Johnson is saying about it. So I do need you guys to let me know as quickly as possible if you can hear the sound on it, because it is very important. I will play it through twice so I know that the sound is up, right? Right, so one more time, please, everybody, let me know if you can hear the sound on the video, please, because it's really important. Oh, there's no sound. Oh, for fuck's sake. All right, okay. Okay. All right. We'll do it a different way. We'll do it a different way because, yay. I'll be right with you. Sorry, everybody. I am very, very sorry. Very, very sorry. Very sorry. Very sorry. I'll be right with you. Sorry, everyone. I think I have probably fixed it now, as long as I can get this properly done. Yeah. Right. So hopefully this should be the right one. Yeah, this is my friend's Twitter. If you want me, I'm there. Somebody wants me. That's always nice. So let's do the sound, shall we? Let's make it up. Sure, it's up. Let's make sure it's there. Let me know again if you can hear the sound, please.
Lord Geit's letters are going to be published soon. Do you really expect the public to believe you didn't disclose key messages with Lord Brownlow about the refurbishment of your flat because you had a new phone?
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times, and yes.
Surely you'd remember such an exchange even if you couldn't see the messages.
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times.
Okay, can I just... Lord Geit's letters are going to be published.
So everyone, are you able to hear that? Yay, sound good. Right. So one last time, let's do it properly, and we'll go through it.
Soon. Do you really expect Lord Geit's letters are going to be published soon? Do you really expect the public to believe you didn't disclose key messages with Lord Brownlow about the refurbishment of your flat because you had a new phone?
Right. So that question is really important. So that question is basically framed to the aspect of a particular situation and a particular aspect. And Boris Johnson categorically stating on the news, saying categorically that he followed procedure to a T, right? So let's listen to him actually saying it.
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times, and yes.
Surely you'd remember such an exchange even if you couldn't see the messages.
I followed the ministerial guidance at all times.
So his position at that point yesterday, on January 7th, was the fact of him categorically stating that he did not break any rules and he followed the I will stop sharing this one. We will now get rid of that, and we will get ready to show the next one, which, in my opinion, almost makes him out to be a complete and utter goddamn liar. So this is a manuscript of basically three text messages that went from Boris Johnson to Lord Brownlow. So for people that are listening rather than watching, the Prime Minister texts first at 12:59 on the 29th of the 11th, 2020, saying, "Hi, David. I am afraid parts of our flat are still a bit of a tip, and I am keen to allow Lulu Late to get on with it. Can I possibly ask her to get in touch with you for approvals? Many thanks and all the best. Boris. P.S. Am on the great exhibition plan will revert." For anybody that wants to know what the Great Exhibition Plan is, it is a initiative that is set up by Brownlow. It is a shared trust. So, interesting, right? So, Lord Brownlow then goes, "Afternoon, Prime Minister. I hope you're both well. Sorry for the delay. I was out for a walk and didn't have my work phone with me. Of course. Get Lulu to call me and we'll get it sorted ASAP. Thanks for thinking about the great exhibition too. Best wishes, David." And then Lord Brownlow also adds, saying, "I should have said, as the trust isn't set up yet, will be in January, approval is a doddle, as it's only me and I know where the pounds will come from. So as soon as Lulu calls, we can crack on. David." Interesting, right? So Boris Johnson was asked, did he have personal message with Brownlow asking for extra funds outside of the ministerial code of conduct? Guess what? He did. He literally did. He lied. I mean, most people are going to go, well, it's Boris Johnson. Of course he lied. It's like, I get that. I get that. But how many times does a sitting prime minister have to be caught lying to the public? Caught lying. This isn't just a lie of omission or somebody thinking that they're lying or, misleading. This is being caught lying. And then not just being caught lying, knowing that you've been caught lying and then lying about being caught that you were lying in the first place. So I'm sure that most people know about all the parties and things like that, where for almost a year they said that nothing happened, they didn't do anything, it was absolutely nothing, nothing happened here. Don't look at us. We followed the procedures all the way through. Honest governor, honest. And yet we find out that they didn't have one party, they didn't have two parties, they didn't have three parties, but they had four parties, and all of the time where they were telling people not to go and visit their dying relatives because you needed to lock yourself down. But it was okay for them to have wine and cheese in a garden because it was a works do, or to have a Christmas party because it was Christmas and I only attended it via an online aspect, even though that I had four people with me in my own flat. But nothing happened. We didn't have parties at Christmas. We followed the rules, guys. To then go in, well, did you follow the rules in trying to ask taxpayers money to be able to do your fat up, to get extra funding for it? Did you follow the procedures correctly? Yes, Governor. I followed everything proper. Honest. Don't look at my phone. Don't look at my phone. What do you mean you're going to look at my phone? Right, I need a new phone. I can't remember it. I didn't do it. It's on my old phone. But surely you'd remember it, wouldn't you, if you did something like that? No, I followed everything correctly. You don't have my old phone, so, doesn't matter. Oh, look. There's your old phone. Oh, look. There's your old messages. Oh, look. There's you asking for extra money and then saying that you will revert the Great Exposition Plan. I mean, does that sound like you're doing a favor for somebody for doing you a favor? You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. But you followed the ministerial's code of conduct in when asking for this money? I don't think you did, son. I don't think you did. And the reason why I'm going so hard on Boris Johnson is not because I want Labour to get in charge. It's not even because I want Liberal Democrats or anybody else to get in charge at the minute. It's a case of if you cannot trust your leader to, when he's been caught lying, to admit that he's been caught lying and even do or done what Tony Blair used to do, where he would go, yep, lessons have been learned and we won't do it again. I'm a naughty boy. Boris Johnson doesn't even give the general public that courtesy of at least pretending that he knows he's done something wrong. Boris Johnson will just go, nah, I thought I was doing everything right. Me asking for money or then offering to do something for him, that's normal, that is. Wait, what do you mean it's normal for you to offer other services to get something that you want? Very interesting, right? How much does his actual corruption, whether you believe that this is high-level corruption or not, this is corruption, how far else do you think that this corruption actually goes? Is what the other papers have actually said about Boris Johnson giving his friends extra money due to COVID actually true? I'll be honest, it seems like it. It seems like it. So when we have a prime minister, a conservative prime minister, that is supposed to be about law, order, following the rules, that isn't ashamed of lying and being caught, which is the most important thing here. You can say that, oh, politicians lie all the time, which is fine. Maybe they do. But do you know what they don't do? Is that when they get caught in a lie, they don't then lie about being caught and then pretend that nothing happened. And this is what this prime minister does. He lies, he gets caught. He lies, he gets caught. It is a repeatable procedure that has happened for a very long time. And being that I was, probably still am, a conservative voter, I do not want this man as my prime minister anymore. I do not want him leading a country to where he can blatantly lie to the general public when he has been caught lying to the general public. Though, to be fair, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I think I have finally completed my lovely, crappy live stream. So I am thankful. Are you saying that a politician? Yeah, no, I'm with you, Jensen. I am with you. But I completely agree that if you're looking at politicians in themselves, yeah, sure, they lie. I get it. But one thing that you don't actually get is a politician that when you're caught lying, going, yes, well, that wasn't me. I did everything right. And then expecting that to pass, right? You don't get that with politicians. Even with Tony Blair, when he was caught lying about different things or misleading the truth, he would go out of his way to go, look, yeah, you're correct. You caught us. What we've done is that we've learned our lessons. We've learned our lessons and we're carrying on. Boris Johnson, on the other hand, is just like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? Yeah, I lied. Here's another lie. What are you going to do? And for a prime minister and any sort of politician, I can't abide by that. But again, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and however you may identify, I have appreciated all the people that have come out, that have dealt with my shoddy equipment, that have had to deal with my ineptitude when it comes to streaming. It's been a while. It has been a while. It is an excuse that I am sticking to, but it is not a lie. It is not a lie. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I will speak to you all again probably a lot sooner. But one last thing with a little announcement that I'm going to be doing. I am doing an interview for a Twitch channel, a YouTube channel, which is a debate platform, which is called Politically Provoked. It is slightly more of a right wing, or known as being more of a right wing platform. I am being interviewed to be able to start being able to debate on there, debate different topics, and so on and so forth. So if people want to look out for that, then go to my Twitter and I will post the video on there. I will also try and post it in my Discord as well. But with that being said, guys, I have a little inkling that I need to go lie down and asleep, because that this has been a hard stream. It's been a very hard stream. I don't like doing it, but sometimes you just got to, right? But with that being said, bye guys, take care. Good seeing you all again. Bye.